Okay, morning. Welcome everybody. The joys of connectivity and other such things have slightly delayed the start of this particular session, but nothing serious. So hopefully we're all online, we're going strong, and we're going old school this morning. Well, I suppose you could go new school as well, but we're talking books. So whether it's paper books or Kindle books or PDF books or, just what books do we recommend? Yeah, so Laura, I hope you've prepared. I know it's early in the morning in your place. So your homework was to identify the top 5 books that you would recommend to anybody starting a business. But I won't start with you. I'll give you a moment to think about that. All right. So, Lee, you're one of the bookworms on this particular forum. With your literary linguistic background and journalistic background and all those sorts of good things, most of which I can't spell. So I'm going to go last on this one, but it's over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I said we needed to bring the physical books, but I don't have, so I'm going against my own requirements. Start with, I think one of the classics is Jim Collins. I don't know, it looks backwards, I think. Jim, Great by Choice. So Jim Collins has written this series of books, and I say Jim Collins, he's very clear that it's a huge that have looked at various companies and have millions and millions and millions of documents and done interviews and researching companies and then comparing them with their opposite industry in the same time and place to see what did this company do well given the same similar situations. I've chosen Great by Choice is because to me it condenses so much of the other books. How the Mighty Fall, there's a whole range of them. As a business owner, there's some really, really helpful principles too that I really like. Actually, I could go into too much detail. So that's what I would recommend. And then another classic, which I'm not sure if anybody else, but it's just everybody knows. But I really do think that this is a book that you, and it's so interesting. I actually just wanted to check. It's published 1998 in the dark ages, basically. Over 20 years old, and it could not be more recognizing that our cheese changes all the time. And so that's all about dealing with change and recognizing things are not going to stay the way you want them to. Somebody is going to move your cheese. And you use another book that's a physical book that I have. If you are a small business, you have to negotiate. You're going to be negotiating with clients, with customers, with staff, with yourself. And Kim Meredith is my business partner. Lots of sales and negotiation training and consulting, and she wrote in the deal. And it's very well written. It's very clear, the step-by-step process, because negotiation is not yes, there's an art to it, but definitely there's skill. So I definitely think that that's a recommended book. And then the 2 other books that I would recommend, and now you see I don't distracted by my internet, Super Teens, because that's because as business owners, you're working with people all the time. What I like about Super Team, it's not one size fits all. There's situations and different contexts. So I really like that about Super Team. The last book I would recommend is The Art of Possibility by Roz and Ben Zander. And that's for personal growth. So invest in yourself as a business owner. And for me, The Art of Possibility, very clever books that gets into your head and about your thinking. So those are my 5 books.
Great, thank you. Right, Ed, I think it's over to you. Yeah, I think you're quite right, but I'm not sure whether you're here or here is here or there, but yeah, we are certainly hearing about your books today. So yeah, let's see what you've got.
I'm not a great one for management books because there are so many of them. They're either probably all wrong, and your chance of finding the right one is kind of like a lottery, or they're all the same and there's no point in buying more than one. So for the business books, I went to the 3rd drawer of my filing cabinet, which is where books go to die. And the first one I picked out was How to Sell, because I think a lot of us need help with selling. And I managed to get halfway through before I gave up. But it does have some nice cartoons in it, which is quite nice. And there's one, you can't see it, but there's one of a couple of guys at a bar, and there's a guy sort of slumped at a table looking quite miserable with a pint of beer. And it says, he learned from his mistakes. In fact, the term lifetime learning might have been coined for him, which I thought was quite amusing, but there you go. And then I thought, well, we need, as Lee said, a personal development book. And the original one I thought of was The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters, but he's more of a sort of sports coach and more of a personal coach rather than a business one. So I settled on Get Out of Your Own Way by a lady called Linda Holt. And there's a scary chapter in there about 365 feedback. So if you've ever had 365 feedback, it is scary. And then I thought for the final one in my business section, I'd have a book of Matt cartoons. Now, Matt is the cartoonist in the Telegraph. And the Telegraph is so right wing, it's often called the Tory graph. But Matt pokes fun of the establishment. And this is a copy from 2009. And it's just after the financial crash. And you'll know I have a thing about bankers and their bonuses. And it's just at the time, Sir Fred Goodwin, who was in charge of the Royal Bank of Scotland before it almost crashed and had to be bailed out by 45 billion pounds worth of government money. And he just got some rather nice big bonuses. And then it was discovered that the Royal Bank of Scotland had been illegally fixing the interest rates and got fined 390 million quid. And he was voted the least popular person in Britain. And someone threw a stone through his window, which I don't advocate, by the way. And there's a picture of a guy in a flat cap. He's a glazier, and he's writing out his invoice for Sir Fred. And he's got call out charge, £30, glass, £34, labour, £52, bonus, 7 million. And it's that thing, isn't it? We pay bankers bonuses. We don't pay a bonus to our plumber. We tip a cab driver. We don't tip a surgeon. And we don't tip our accountant who saved us loads of tax. So the business world is weird. And then, as you know, I changed what I did. I went from being a boring accountant to being a creative. And accountants, well, legal accountants know nothing about creativity. And a friend of mine who's a performance artist, she gave me this book, The Creative Habit, by a lady called Twyla Thwart. I can never pronounce her name, but she's a top flight American choreographer. And it's got little bits in there about how to be creative. And there's some lovely bits and very practical. Despite all the good habits you developed, the preparation rituals, the organization tools, the techniques for scratching out pre-ideas and actual ideas, there will come a time when creativity fails. You stare at the canvas, the screen, the keyboard, the empty room, and it will refuse to meet your eyes. It looks away as if ashamed of you. You may as well be painting on shards of broken glass. Your screen shows nothing but wavy lines. Your fingers slip off the keyboard, never getting traction. The room turns cold and dark, and someone is locking the door behind you. You're in a rut. And then she explains how to get out of a rut. So it's a sort of very inspirational book, but also a very practical book. It's got ideas about how to be creative. An excellent book, especially for an American. Sorry, Laura. And then the other one, of course, you know, I'm a writer, and the best book ever on writing is by Stephen King. I think he might be American, actually. And it's called On Writing. And it's a memoir. It's half memoir, half a writing course. And there's amazing things in there about, you know, the creative struggle, the self-doubt and all that sort of stuff. But there's also very practical stuff in there. He says, consider the sentence, he closed the door firmly. It's by no means a terrible sentence. At least it's got an active verb going for it. But ask yourself, does firmly really have to be there? You could argue that it expresses a degree of difference between he closed the door and he slammed the door. And you'll get no argument for me. But what about context? What about all the enlightening, not to say emotionally moving prose which came before? He closed the door firmly. Shouldn't this tell us how the door is closed? And if your foregoing prose does tell us, isn't firmly an extra word, it's redundant. So very practical advice, as well as very sort of, yes, like you, I have doubts, I have fears, I have whatever, I stare at a blank page. So it's a fascinating book, Stephen King, On Writing. So that's my 5.
Great, thanks, Ed. And I just wonder how the door feels about this.
The thing is, it's really got to want to change.
Okay, so yeah, it all depends on whether it resists your action or not in the process. So, yeah. Okay, so Laura, you're up, and you're up early. So yeah, let's see how you're going.
Well, that was hilarious. How do I follow that? Okay, I just took what's in my thing. Yes, focus. So I think about, I don't, the business side, my brain doesn't work very well. I know content quite well. The business side is where I struggle. I don't have the business side at all. So I refer to other people. What comes in my dreams, what I'm dreaming about, will come to fruition. So what am I dreaming about? And I don't mean just dreams like literally, I mean like figuratively. What are my hopes? What are my aspirations? And what's people say, what's your why? I think of why as an acronym. Who hears you? Who I want to touch? And it's for me, the why is who do I want to talk to, or who do I want to reach? And then the how is the business thing. That's the thing I have a problem with. Because I could shout it from the rooftops. And that would be dependent on where I'd go. So if I'm in the rooftop, which rooftop would I go to? I'd have to figure out where I want to go to, because if I don't know where I'm going to go, I'll just be anywhere. I love maps. I adore maps. I mean, I just, you could tell me where you're at. Jasper, where you at? What's the town? Jasper? Can you hear me? Can't hear you.
Always Johannesburg, South Africa.
Johannesburg. Oh, I'm sure I can find that in here. Johannesburg. I don't know what page it's on. I don't know. I'm sure it's in here. I don't know. You think that might be in here?
I think we sometimes we fallen off the end of the world, but you know, we could be there.
Well, I would imagine that Johannesburg, who would think of Oak Forest, Illinois in the United States would be in here? It's not. Or Park is, and or Oak Lawn is, and that's 5 miles down the road. Boom, boom, boom. They say location, location, location. There you go. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going. So it might be out of reach, but it's in sight. This is a book by Andy Lazzavita. Great guy. He's a career coach from the States. It's hilarious. I love him. It's got boot camps, just tons of career stuff. He's really great. He's got another book, Interview Intervention and The Hiring Prophecies. This book is actually like a graduation speech that he gave. It was all in one setting, like one sitting. He's got great quotes in here. My mind is open to any possibility, but my heart is attached to no outcome. My mind is open. Process people tend to enjoy the journey. I'll take the correct steps and the outcome will just happen. Last one. Vision. It's your ability to see where you want to take that love. How will it grow? How will you grow it? How will you nurture it? Where will it take you? It might be out of reach, but got in sight. So then I think about who do I want to reach? I'm going to tell you that one because it's can be naughty. So I might consider it as naughty. So I think about, I've been here before. I've written a book. It's my dissertation. It's a long, long journey. Would I do it again? And I don't say that. I don't know what I've done. I know what I've done. I know how long it took to get that. I mean, nobody reads it. Do they really read it? So what's my love? I mean, who's going to read a dissertation, a research study on the subjective experiences of at-home dads from a feminist perspective? I did, and I loved it. That's my baby. It took me 5 years, and I got the proof of it. So I don't know business, that's for darn sure. I know that I don't know. And that's the whole thing. Is like I know a little bit about a lot. I know a lot about a little. I know a lot about a little bit. I mean, who's stay-at-home dads this much? And I know enough to say I don't know. I need help. Well, that's most of the time though. I don't have a problem saying I don't know, because when I don't know, I reach out, and that's the thing about it. Asking for help, biggest challenge. And I learned, if anybody knows Brene Brown, I have a difficult time with that. If I don't ask for help, especially when people offer it, I'm depriving others of the same joy that I receive when I provide help to others. That's the joyous part. And when I say, no, I don't ask for help, or someone offers it and I don't accept it, I'm depriving them of the same joy. So help, I needed a lot of help with this one. Because, Ed, what you were saying, that quote you were reading about when the canvas, it's just like when the door closes on you and you're like, I got nothing. How many days? I got nothing. I'm sitting there like, come on. And then other days it would just flow like a river, like a waterfall, like it would just come out. And other days I'm like stuck. But it takes work, but you got it. It'll happen. You got it.
Well done. Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Laurie. And definitely, you know, the more the learn, you less you know. So, Jasper, are you with us?
Morning. Yeah, I had an interesting morning with my computer hanging on me, and I had to reboot and restart, and so sorry for being late. Yes, but in terms of books, at one stage in my life I was an avid reader. I read continuously. Now I have a lot of books that is continuously open, but I probably pick at a few pages here and a few pages there. And I'm starting to struggle to finish the books. But in terms of the books that impact my life, I'm just going to share a screen, and we'll talk through the books there. Let me just get there. All right, so without the first book that I'm continuously reading on a daily basis is the Bible, and I'm reading various translations of the Bible. Currently, I'm busy with the scriptures version of it, and it's interesting how truth never gets old, but I also find the Bible inspiring that it doesn't try to hide the flaws of people, and even the so-called heroes of the Bible, like a King David with all his warts, blemishes, and faults and stuff like that. So I find that inspiring for myself. Then books that I've read over time and not in any specific order would then be Think and Grow Rich. I think I probably started with that book when I entered the world of selling. That came highly recommended. But the book that probably finally turned it for me to accept that selling is a noble profession, and probably the biggest thing that anyone has to do somewhere in his life is Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling. And then a very motivational book that I still to today recommend to people is The Richest Man Babylon. It's just a simple principle of how to, so that the message of the book is that you're not rich and wealthy because of the money you have. You are rich and wealthy because of how you steward and allocate the money that is entrusted to you. So that means from the smallest bit of money, you can start moving forward. Then Zig Ziglar is a favorite speaker, and I've listened to most of his motivational tapes, but then also his book, See You at the Top. And then a book that was quite instrumental in my life was when Robert Kiyosaki wrote the first of his series, and that's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And after that, he wrote Cash Flow 101 and the whole thing. And much of what I'm doing today in Get probably stemmed from insights I gained out of what he was doing with his thing there. Yeah, and then let me stop sharing. And then the final, well, there's a few books that I can recommend that comes out of the speakers on this platform. So there's a serial entrepreneur that I can strongly recommend. There's another book that, what is it? There's another book here called The Fixer. I can recommend that book to you as well. But then a book that I highly recommend is this book, Legacy. And yeah, so it looks like my friend and I are there on the same page. And so I leave it at that.
Okay, so Trevor, you're down to 2 books left. I think you've chucked away 3 of the ones that you had already. So
I had a whole pile of books, and now I've got nothing to talk about. But in actual fact, I've got this. Look, unashamedly, the best book that summarizes everything that I've ever read. Oh my goodness, I can't get it in here. I'll have to get it just now. But look, I did some homework, Ed. But you know what, Lee, you set the task for SMEs. And I thought, no, man, I must have a look at what really stimulated me and what is great to go back to. I must say, I see Ed doesn't like Think and Grow Rich. You know what, it took me about 20 years before I actually got onto that book, because I thought it was the most ridiculous title I'd ever seen on the bookshelves. But like most things, there are good things and there are rubbish in most things in life, flip sides. And I thought there was a lot of good in Think and Grow Rich, and I would highly recommend that to any entrepreneur to go on. So I don't know if I'm misinterpreting your comment, Ed, but it doesn't look as though you recommend that one. But let me tell you what, you know what, everything that we've done in Wisdoms starts at the beginning, attitude. And I think most entrepreneurs miss out on just what they are in for in starting their particular journey. And so this publication is one of the finest for getting you ready for the time that you hit your dip. And it generally happens about 6 to 12 weeks after you start your first entrepreneurial enterprise. You think it's the greatest thing since peanut butter, and then 12 weeks later, the whole world turns around and tells you that it stinks. Now, how do you pull yourself out of that deep dive? Robert Schuller, tough times never last, but tough people do. And I think many people have been hit by COVID-19 and 2020, and it created the toughest of tough times for him. And he was stimulated by the Great Depression back in this time period last century. A fascinating read, and I think it should be at the top of everyone's pile. So I'm just working my way through my 5 books. You will have noticed I got rid of 4. So it's a little list here. I think I did have it there. See, I obviously had 2 books. There's Think and Grow Rich, again, attitudinal. I think that's extremely important. The next most important one for your people, Lee, I believe, is this: the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and whatever Covey ever wrote. I mean, this has got to be a book that you can follow through from an attitudinal perspective. And then we get on to the business side of things. This woman really, I thought she was one of the smartest. She was, oh, for goodness sake, famous advertising group in New York, an Australian who I met with, Wendy Evans, here in South Africa, and she wrote this publication, How to Get New Business in 90 Days. I still think is one of the smartest business books I have ever read. So if you get into that, How to Get New Business in 90 Days by Wendy Evans, and Keep It Forever. I think she did extremely well with that. This guy is outstanding. The E-Myth, Michael Gerber, it doesn't matter whether you read his E-Myth Revisited, but if you want the basics about business, this guy understood the basics, and the basics never change. And by the way, I've never met an accountant that has not been creative. So I don't know what planet Ed actually came from. Especially here in South Africa, we've learned a ton about creative accountants and how they turn millions into billions and trillions into their own accounts. In fact, they even name their own companies, something like that, I think. Right. So how many? I think I'm at number 2. Mark McCormick. Get into him. I mean, Ed, you'll love this guy. What they don't teach you at Harvard Business School as a business consultant and manager of sporting professionals. You got to get into that. Oh, this guy, Edward De Bono, for goodness sake, tactics. I mean, there Lee was talking about going to analyze and talk to various people. Man, he interviewed people here, and their feedback and input of what stimulated them from a business perspective, what they've forgotten, we still have to learn, which is absolutely stunning. And many people don't know this guy, Don Dwyer, and his publication is Target Success. How you can become a successful entrepreneur regardless of your background. He set up probably over 1,000 franchise operations. And obviously I was setting up the largest education franchise here in South Africa, and I wanted to understand what these guys were doing in the States. And he was one of the best reads, and still is, in understanding how to actually build those. And yes, I did have some local publications, and that I threw them over my shoulder, but The Fixer and Legacy, that was stimulated out of our local Chamber of Commerce, one of the best, or a couple of the best local reads I've ever been involved in. But of course, the best ever, unashamedly, is Confessions of a Serial Entrepreneur by an amazing writer. You must go back and have a look at it. And just for Laura, Laura, I'm going to have to get you that link and have everyone waiting in expectation. Let me get it here so that you can actually get to that book. This is the only book any entrepreneur ever needs.
in life.
I'll check that out. And by the way, I put in an Amazon link. If you check on that, that's my response to you.
I saw it. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we've just realised Trevor can't count past 3 because that was a lot more than 5.
I count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I was doing a waltz, mate. No, but listen, in all seriousness, in trying to select those books and having a look around here, I've left out some phenomenal books that are sitting here on the shelves. And no, I just don't think you can be an entrepreneur without putting yourself into the minds of different people. And if you really want to study, I mean, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, look at this, Anthony Robbins, Unlimited Power, and so it goes.
And I've just been buried under a weight of books. Now, how do I actually run my business?
And which one's right?
Well, exactly. So, okay, so you've left me no time, you've left me no books, and you've left me behind completely. So I think I'll just have to go left field. Well, we'll start with this one. I'll have to switch off my background so you can see these things. So let me just switch off, not my video, my background. We'll try that again. Click the right button, and I couldn't find a book to tell me how to do that. So I've got, we'll have to see where we can take this thing. So, okay. So my first book, it's extremely profound. It's absolutely amazing, and it's huge. So here's the first one. Great book to keep on your desk. All you got to do is you open it. So first thing it says here, I have learned more from my mistakes than from my successes. Okay. Open it again. It says, life affords no higher pleasure than that of surmounting difficulties, passing from one step of success to another, forming new wishes and seeing them gratified. Open it again. This is one of Ed's favorite and one of my favorites. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would have never otherwise occurred. A whole stream of events issue from the decision, rising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings, the material and incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. So, need a bit of inspiration? Begin it now. Okay, so number 2. Need I say any more, Trevor? Got to be one of yours. Okay, Aesop's Fables. Do you know anything about Aesop's Fables? Okay, I got two. What comes after 2, Trevor? 3. Okay, so 3. If you haven't seen that, and you haven't watched that, you need to watch that. Story of Johnny the Beggar, Simple Truths. And then finally, which is number 4, because I haven't got 5 because all of those have been taken. It's a love story. Okay. In fact, this is not the right one. The love story was the gold. But anyway, Eli Goldratt. The Gold, if you haven't read it, I love Eli because I'm a systems and process man. He's a systems and process man. But his first book, The Gold, actually became a bestseller, and people were reading it because of the story, not because of the management information that was contained in it. So it's a love story, but it's a management book. So what more could you ask? Fall in love with your business. Right. Those are my books. Lots more, but as I say, I can't get past 4. So Lee, over to you.
Well, this little chapter here is going to be gold. We're going to have to highlight it on our YouTube channel and just say, listen, guys, if you want to get your heads into gear, yes, you can be buried under books, but there's enough, one of the principles of, and maybe this is what we can talk about tomorrow, of wisdoms is there is no secret to success. And the reason for that is it's all around you. If you want to know how to do whatever it is that you want to do, it's available. Somebody that knows something about what you need, and you just need to find that somebody, that some book. And the beauty is it's available now. It's more available than ever before. Begin it now. Yes. So Trevor, are you saying something?
Yeah, you know what? I really just flippantly, when Jasper brought out his book, I took it off my pile and threw it over the back. But I keep on flipping through this, and this is a collection of years and years of insights of all the books that this guy has read and what he's doing in the future. Men highly recommended for startup entrepreneurs, and the byline is the 4 steps to success and significance in life and business. We must not bypass the that we have within our own people and our own networks. I mean, it's, you know, I sit back here and I look at Jasper and I'm not inspired, but I read his book and I'm over the moon. No, in all seriousness, this is a fantastic publication for startup entrepreneurs. I've got to give him a pat on the back, but of course it's not as good as my book, which I've put in there. Go for it.
So let's talk about there's no secret to success, but I would love it to be based, you know, Jasper, you got to share. So you know, give us a pricey version of legacy, because I think that's definitely going to stimulate our discussion as well. So let's reveal all tomorrow.
Ooh, that sounds rosy. Okay, did you say racy or pricey? Anyway, okay, you're going to reveal all. Yeah, okay, we won't go down that road. Okay, promise. Well, we might. You know, who knows? We never know where it's going to go on these chats. So have a great day further, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Even Ivan's revealed his background.
That's racy.